Welcome to the podcast She is Fab, where we discuss all things fab, women empowerment, and life coaching. My name is Evelyn, also known as the Fab Chieftess, and I am a mindset transformation coach. Welcome to another episode of the She is Fab podcast. My name is Evelyn, your host, mindset transformation coach. And today I have the pleasure of speaking to Bettina Marie Jones. She is a self-described late bloomer and a lover of living. She's living an intuitive-led life that's transforming every aspect of her being, which at this moment in time has included moving across the country to a new city without knowing a soul, leaving her beloved family, friends, and a damned good job, only to discover that she's been a Wayfinder all along. Welcome, Bettina.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here with you, Evelyn.
I'm so glad to have you and so excited for this conversation. So tell us about this transition, this journey that you're on.
Oh my gosh. So my journey, I feel like my journey has been going on all my life. I just didn't recognize it, like many people, probably a lot of your listeners. But in 2014, I had a big transition. My mother passed away. And after the grieving process, I realized that I wanted to live my life for myself, not for my family, although I love them dearly, not for my job, my friends. And so I was like, I'm going to start new. And part of that starting new meant I left the East Coast, moved to the West Coast, and now I'm a life coach. And that's how I discovered it. I feel like I would not have discovered being a life coach if I had stayed the same. And my intuition has been leading me ever since. So I hope people resonate with this or see, like, can picture themselves like, yeah, I was getting nudges. I wanted to move to a new city or a new house, anything like that. So that's my journey so far, and it continues to unfold.
So I have to ask, because you mentioned that, your mother passed away and then you wanted to live life for yourself. Was your mother's passing a catalyst or part of the catalyst for you transitioning?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It wasn't until after she passed away that I always knew I wanted to move to the West Coast, but it wasn't until she passed that I realized I was staying at home for her. Like, it would have been devastating for me to know that she passed and I couldn't get home quick enough because she had sacrificed so much. So it was definitely a catalytic event for me. And it also, although it was devastating, I felt the freedom of it as well. So, yes.
Obviously, my condolences that your mother passed away. That's
Thank
always
you.
very difficult when somebody so close passes. But in terms of caregiving, as women, we play that role. We kind of fall into it whether we want to or not.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, we'll put others, individuals, their cares, their needs above our own. So it makes sense that you essentially wanted to be there for your mother, to take care of her the way that she took care of you and brought you up. But then also makes sense that once, she transitioned from this life, you now wanted to explore living life for yourself.
Most definitely. And I should say I have siblings, so they were there as well. And it was a big part too, because my sister, who's younger than me, has two children that I was very close to. So not only did they lose their grandmother, that means that me, who was a big influence in their life, I still am, but it's different when you're there in person and in their lives and meeting once a month to do fun things, to moving across the country. And now we're talking on the phone or doing video chats. So I had to talk to them and make sure, like, nothing was wrong, but like I was moving. And my nephew was very upset. So it was like a lot of transitions, because they were going to have a double loss now.
Yes.
However, it was one of the things that helped me make the decision. Do I want to live my life and be there for my niece and nephew in their lives? They have two parents and a good, stable home, and be like an outlier? Or do I want to see how far can I fly? And I was like, I chose myself. I was not going to sacrifice my own expression and my own path and my journey. Not to say I couldn't do it there, but for me, it was like I needed to move on. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm someone who doesn't live with too many regrets. I'm not saying I don't make mistakes, but I don't allow regrets to hold me down heavy in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
So
I love
yeah.
that. I'm in agreement with you when it comes to that. If I make a decision, whether it was the best decision for me or not, I don't live in that regret. I don't live or dwell on that negative, aspect.
Hmm.
I move forward from there. I can also understand how your family, might feel with, the loss of your mom and then having you also move away. So they lose that connection, or at least
Yeah.
not the connection, but what they've been used to in terms of engagement, because that was a different way of engaging. You mentioned that, there was some unhappiness there. What about the rest of your family? Did they have an opinion on your transition?
I have to say, I am very fortunate where my family, like my sister, my brother, and my sister in law, were like, live your life. Like, we're going to miss you. We don't like that you're moving, but they were not going to stand in my way. So they were very supportive of me moving. And it makes it like when we do get together now, and it's not as often as I thought I would initially go back home, especially in lieu of 2020 and the pandemic and where we are now. Um, but when I did before the pandemic, it was like a celebration. It felt richer. I felt like my relationships were a little more richer and not so enmeshed in the day to
Mm-hmm.
day, which was lovely for all of us. So yes. To answer your question, my family was supportive. No one stood in my way. Like there was no
Mm-hmm.
guilt trips.
Mm-hmm.
which like when I talk to some people, they're like, yeah, I want to move, but like my mother will stand in my way or my father will flip out or, my sister need, and it's like, wow, yeah, no.
I'm so glad to hear that your family is supportive.
Yeah.
Case in point, I live in the West Coast as well in California, but I
Hmm.
am an East Coaster, originally from New York City.
Hmm.
I was there for 23 years of my life, and my mother to this day is just like, "What are you doing in California? Come back home." So they're not as supportive of it. So I
Oh,
love when I hear that other folks have the alternate experience of just having that support.
yeah. Does your mom come out and visit you?
She visited me once in the 11 plus years that I've been here. She loved it though. She loved the weather. She loved the people that she got to engage with. But she's so used to her life in the East Coast and what she's
Hmm.
known that coming out here often or even the thought of moving is a no for her.
Yeah, and I think that's like a big thing too. Like what people want to go like beyond what they've known all their lives, and
Mm-hmm.
and there's no judgment whether you'd like to stay or go, but like that's like I don't know. Like I love connecting with people who like to explore like what is out there other than what they've known all their lives.
Yeah.
Um, and include it. And that doesn't mean that either of us can't go back east and live.
Mhm.
Oh,
Exactly. It's
so
just another option that we have available to us.
yeah.
I do, however, advocate for folks to travel to get out of their comfort zone, to even once in their life live somewhere different, because
Hmm.
the whole purpose of traveling, of getting out of your comfort zone, is to broaden and expand your mind and learn so much more about the other experiences.
Yeah, and it leads to joy, more joy in life, like joys you wouldn't like ever expect. I'm really shocked, like living in Seattle, a lot of people have not, or who are born and raised in the state of Washington,
Mm-hmm.
have not traveled beyond the Pacific Northwest. And I feel like life is too expansive and there's too much of a limited view. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I can pick that up in their attitudes or their feelings. And it's like, of course, being an East Coaster, I'm from Connecticut, but consider myself a New Yorker because worked in New York for 10 years. But I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
why not? Like I, like, but people don't like when you ask questions. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
really important for people who want expansion in their lives to commit to being asking questions. Like be
Mm-hmm.
like if there's not clarity in your life, ask why is this happening or what can I do differently to make some change because this is not enough for me, and that's
Yeah.
not everybody. So,
No, I love that. I mean, I think that also comes with us as coaches, right?
mhm.
As an individual, in general, you should be asking why, but obviously, us coaches are also pushing for that deep exploration, right? Keep asking the why, like a little kid, right? But why? But why? But why? And you get to that underlying source.
Right, right. And usually people shut down kids after a while after asking so many whys, but it's our curiosity, which I think is a
Hmm.
beautiful thing that needs to be like expressed more. Um
Yeah.
but again,
Well,
that's a coach's thought. But I think we were probably coaches before we knew we were coaches because I've always had that.
that's true. A lot of us, might resist or fight the path, but eventually I feel like because in alignment, we're
Mhm.
called to engage in that capacity. I
Yes.
also agree with you because I know people, even in my own family, who have never left the state of New York. And I'm just like,
Uh,
what are you guys doing? Like, you need to travel and get out there.
Yeah, like the world is bigger than New York. New York is rich and full and delicious and yummy and smelly, but there's more.
Yes, there's so much more to explore. So in your transition, right, you have this situation happen, you have a supportive family who wanted you to get out there, live your life,
Yes.
broaden your horizons. You mentioned that you started going into life coaching. So what prompted that? Because that came after you started your transition, right?
Yes. What prompted that for me was I have a corporate background. I've always worked in corporate spaces and I was never happy. Like I had good jobs. I can't say that I felt fulfilled. And I always knew that there was something more. I just didn't know what it was. And, I'll say I'm a quote unquote seeker. Like I was taking courses, I was always taking professional development, I was exploring spirituality. And when I moved out here to Seattle, what happened to me is it was a slow transition because I had to rebuild or find a new pod of friends. Like I was seeking friends and community. And it took me about 6 months to 9 months to realize that everybody that I was connecting with was a life coach. And
Oh,
for me, which didn't mean a lot to me, to be honest, because honestly, predominantly they were white women. And being a woman of color, I did not see a lot of examples of that. And it wasn't until one day, and these life coaches were like, "You should really be a life coach." And I was like, "That's not meant for me." Like I had a limiting belief. It's not for women or men of color. It's for white women or white men. Like the Tony Robbins and Brooke Castillo's and such. However, one day I was so dissatisfied on a job, and I was listening to. Are you familiar with Hay House? It used to be Hay House Radio.
yes.
I called in and called Dougal Fraser, who was an intuitive and he does colors. And the topic of his conversation that day was, where are you unsatisfied and how can I help you like get an answer? And so I called in, didn't think I would be in, like I would, but he spoke to me. He told me what color he saw. And he's like, have you ever considered being a life coach? So this is like the third or fourth or fifth person who told me. And my reaction was like, no, I've never considered being a life coach. Why would I? And he's like, and we had, and in that conversation, so he was getting that intuitive prompt. And then we also had like the first friend that I made in Seattle, he knew because she had a radio station and he was interviewed on it. And he was like, Bettina, you and I have the same person that we know the same person who's a life coach.
Hmm.
Just talk to her and see what the day in a life of a life coach is. So it opened me up. And that's how I started to explore like, okay, I'm going to be a life coach. Like it wasn't, and it took like one conversation. I was like, I can do this. I want to do this.
Hmm.
Even though I wasn't still sure what it meant, because then it was like, I had to explore schools and different
Hmm.
approaches. But I just followed it where it led and it landed me on my feet to like a path of joy. Like I remember the first time in class that I coached someone, and afterwards I cried because I was like, I found what I'm supposed to do. It was like my soul resonated so deeply with it that there was no more question.
Mm-hmm.
So
I love that story. I
that's how it
love
happened.
hearing that, like how you came across this calling, and you can hear the passion in your voice,
Oh,
how you're
thank
speaking
you.
about your finding. And it's funny how the universe will give you these signs and kind of point you in the direction. But for a lot of folks, there's resistance in that,
Mm-hmm.
depending on where you are, what you're dealing with. And it
Yes.
isn't until, you hit that wall multiple times, you're like, you know what? Okay, I get it. Thank yeah, universe, I see you. Let's explore this.
Yes, yes. Like, okay, you've been knocking on the door a long time, and now I'm ready to crack it open. And that's the beauty. Like you as as a coach as well. Like you see that happening in people's lives, and it's like, I'm waiting for someone to say, "What took me so long?"
I'm sure if your friends haven't told you, they probably thought it.
Exactly. But it is resistance. It is inner resistance that we all have experience of. But
Mm-hmm.
when we're sick and tired enough, we'll make some
Yes.
changes.
Yes, it's all choices, right? Whether
Hmm.
you're pushed into the choice or you yourself have that aha moment to make that choice. And for those
Yes.
of you that are listening or watching who might be aspiring coaches or just want to learn more about coaches, Bettina mentioned, that there was some resistance there. She had these folks in her life who prompted her to think, about the path, and then she had this moment where it kind of all came together.
Hmm.
But Bettina, as a life coach is really broad, right?
Yes. Yes, it is. It's a
And as coaches, a lot of us try to focus into a niche or something or a modality that calls to us. Are you still exploring that, or do you have your modality that you kind of use and apply?
I'm still exploring it. Like I realize I'm still on a journey of like finding my people.
Mm-hmm.
And the all I know right now is I want to help people experience like freedom, like those having a corporate background. I can now see, like, although I was searching and things worked out well, I made an excellent salary in New York City,
Mm-hmm.
make one now as well in Washington, and without that fulfillment, but still, um, I want to help people get unstuck and explore their beliefs on why they feel they're stuck. And so, like, I look for
Mm-hmm.
ways to like just crack open the door a little bit. And so that's my approach. Or
Mm-hmm.
so I don't have a specialty yet. But I like people who also have that seeker energy, like they have balance in their life and they're like, I know there's more. I just don't know what it is. However,
Mm-hmm.
I believe as well, I'm not the type of life coach that gives advice. I know that my clients have all the answers inside them. I
Mm-hmm.
might have to ask the right questions to just help them open up that door a little bit. But that's my approach. I have friends
Mm-hmm.
that are life coaches that give advice, and I'm like, nope, that is not my jam. That goes against my ethics and boundaries. Like I think that's an important thing with coaches, like boundaries. Clients' feelings, my feelings. I'm not going to say how I came through something because we all think differently and that has to be respected in our field. I know that's a
I
long-winded
understand
answer, but
that.
yes. So no, I don't have a specialty. I want to work with people who are like, I'll say, kind of like a modern day mystic.
Mm-hmm. And you know what, Bettina, that's okay, because even if you start in one capacity, just like how we're humans and constantly evolving,
Hmm.
the same will happen, with your coaching. You might start out in one area with one modality or
Right.
feeling, and then
Yes.
that could adapt and change as things go on. What
Yeah.
I love that you mentioned is the feeling behind it and the advice. Obviously, different coaches do things differently, but
Yes.
I'm in agreement with you. The way that I perceive coaching or how I approach coaching is I'm here to help you pull out the answers that you already have. It's
Yeah.
just that you're missing that accountability and that action. And in terms
Yes.
of advice, our clients do ask for advice.
Mm-hmm.
But to your point, we are unique individuals with unique experiences, and you don't want to muddy or influence somebody's action or decision based on your own experience or project your emotions onto them. So it's a fine line. You have to be careful with
Yes.
that.
Yes. I liken it to, like, let's say you and I have a peach. I take a bite, my experience of that peach is going to be different. Even if it's the same peach, like it might be sweet to you, to me, it's tangy. So when I'm coaching someone, although they're talking about maybe their relationship with their boss or even the relationship to like online dating, their experience and their thought process is going to be different from mine. And so that's where I think it's important as coaches, we honor where the client's at and their experience, because we will have different experiences. Just like we're so individualized that it's beautiful. Like that's how our world is created.
Yes, that's a great message. If you guys didn't absorb that, please rewind and re-listen to that tidbit of wisdom.
Oh, so
So, Bettina, I feel like you could probably be an empath. Has anyone ever told you that?
yes. And I'm sure you're an empath as well. Many coaches are, correct. Many are not, depending on, but I will say with empaths, and it's an interesting question. I know there are highly sensitive people. I don't consider myself highly sensitive. And I say this, I am an ambiverт. That means I love being with people. I love speaking and I love my alone time. I don't know how it was for you when you lived in New York, but like I loved all the impressions, where others, it was impression overload. However, and so like, I don't know, I just feel like I'm a little different. I don't get upset by big crowds or loud noises. However, when I work with a client, I use my empathy to, it's one of the, and while keeping boundaries, like when my client feels something painful, and I mean like a deep pain where they start sobbing, I hold space for them. I do my best to stay grounded and not be enmeshed with that, but like meet them and acknowledge this is a very painful situation and we don't have to have the answer right now.
Yes. Okay. So you said a lot of things there that are
Sorry.
they're so good. So in regards to the experience and the people, for me, it depends on the day. I have learned to essentially try to shut off the empath in me because it can be a sensory overload at times.
Sure.
And so I live between either being really extroverted or really introverted. I find that I do love people. I love engaging. I love talking, but I also need the space to have my individual, thinking, my individual feeling in a way to sort of re-energize.
Yes.
Right? So it's like there's a balance there.
So important.
Something that I struggle with, and you brought this up, is the emotion, right? As an empath, when somebody is going through pain and they're outwardly outpouring, I get so emotional. And so I struggle with not trying to take on that experience, that pain, and trying to keep a boundary that will allow me to still perform as a coach.
Yes. Evelyn, that is such a beautiful thing to have in terms of self-knowledge. Like really, because a lot of people don't know that. They just think like that's who I am and that's how I work. However, I think it's so important. And I know you realize this, that like you mentioned the word boundary, like, because there's our physical boundary and then there's the energetic boundary as empaths. It's important for me to set energetic boundaries before, sometimes during, especially if somebody's experienced emotional pain, and after. And so I always take time afterwards for that care. And that means I intuitively send somebody's energy back to them. I do so many things to like set boundaries and on an energetic level that to help me And that's when, so it's really important. I'm glad you recognize that. And a lot of people don't. So good for you. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. But I understand, like one time I was working with a client and I felt their pain and I almost started to cry. And I was like, wow. However, instead I said, I feel that in my body because I wanted them to know I was with them. I was with them in that emotion. So.
Yes. And it can be difficult because we're human, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's learning.
Exactly. And as humans, inherently we crave connection. We crave that engagement. And as coaches, we're going through all these emotions, not just, the experience of our clients, but our own inner dealings.
Yes.
And that's why it's important that as a coach, you fully understand your knowledge, your authority, your boundaries, how you actually coach, and where to draw the line. I feel like good coaches have all of this in mind, have that awareness.
Yes, I would agree. And it's a learning too. And that's where, like, I'm someone, like, whether somebody goes through coaching school, like that's a path I took, or somebody uses their life experience, it's still, I feel like the ethics of a life coach, as well as our own personal integrity, that's where that really comes into play. Like, like not to, like, truly, I like to hold sacred space for my clients. And being a human, there are my blind spots. Like if somebody's talking about, like, it's not as painful for me right now because, grief is a process when you lose a loved one. But if somebody would lost their mother tomorrow and we're working together, I could hold that space and I could remember things that I experienced with my mother. However, I'm going to just hold that for them and not tell them how I moved through it or what helped me, but like just allow that to come forward from them. So it is hard as an empath. It really is. Especially those blind spots where it's like, ooh, I was just triggered by what my client said. That's when that's when I like, that's when I put my feet on the floor. I start to like breathe a little deeper.
I really hope that there are some coaches who are listening to this because there's value for the audience, right? But there's also value for the coach and how to engage and interact.
Yes.
And you're sharing so much wisdom and things. I'm just like, yes, please talk about it more. Triggers. As coaches, when a client is telling their story or seeking guidance from you or action steps or tools, whatever it is, there are things that they can say which triggers something in you. And you as a coach have to be careful that, again, you're not somehow influencing or creating some sort of push in your client that isn't stemming from them where they want to go and what they want to do.
Yes, that's so important. And I know I have been triggered and I know I will be triggered in the future with clients. And the last time, I will tell you, the last time I was triggered, somebody was what I'll call a story fondler. So that means they were really narcissistic. They wanted to stay in their pain. And it's hard for me as an empath. And I think because it informs, like, I've had the experience in my life before. Some people want to hold on to their suffering so tightly. And to me, that is so frustrating that it was really hard for me. Like as a coach, after about 20, 30 minutes, I asked the client, do you want to be coached? And I didn't listen to myself where I wanted to stop the coaching session. However, I gave her the option to continue or not. And of course, somebody had me as, I'm going to say in that situation, like a captive audience. And so she wanted to continue, but my level of frustration was raising higher and higher and higher. And fortunately, this was a peer coach, not a client, but somebody who was going through something. And it was really hard. Like I was triggered all over the place because I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't, and to me, it's so different. like, I'm not saying, obviously, as a human being, I suffer. I have emotional thoughts that make me suffer. However, I'm always like, what's on the other side? I will go through the suffering. I don't care if it takes me 3 months. I will stay in the thick of it. However, I
Mm-hmm.
know that there's something on the other side. And so I can't always, and someone once told me, I'm like one of those, they're old, like, uh, there was a clown, like you used to be able to punch it and it would come back up.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a clown stuff with air. And he's like, you're like that. And I know that's like part of my nature. Like if I'm down, I'm going to get back up. I might be down for a day, couple of days. But people who, so that's one of my big triggers, like, because I live in a life of joy and I might not know all the answers, but I'm not going to stay in that. And that's one of my triggers as a coach. And I'm working with that. And I'm actually finding resources to help me like move through that. Or like next time I want to honor my intuition and said, this is a good time for us to stop. I don't think you want to
Yeah.
continue. And we're not going anywhere. And I started to get engaged and I was like, no, not a good move for me.
I appreciate that share, and I actually agree with you. Similarly, I don't believe it's okay to feel the emotions.
Yes,
It's okay
absolutely.
to be aware and absorb it in the moment, but there is the other side of things, right? You don't want to get into that victim mentality where you're stuck there, you're not progressing.
Mm,
So when I connect with people who are in that state where they're, playing the victim, or where they're choosing not to face that emotion, not to move beyond it, I know that it's not for me. That relationship is not for me. And,
exactly.
I've had clients who will, do their discovery call, who are interested in coaching, but they're not ready. And
Hmm.
I will turn them away because I'm like, you're
Yes.
not ready to be coached because you have things that you are dealing with. You may think that you're ready. You may think you want to take this path, but until you release these things, you're not going to be able to accept the help that I can give. So it's okay as a coach to say, I'm sorry, this relationship will not work.
Right. And kudos to you because that's your personal integrity. Like I'm sure there are some coaches, especially when we first start out, we want to work with anybody and everybody. And so like we'll accept clients, even
Mm-hmm.
though there's something inside that says this is not going to be a great relationship, but we'll move forward with it anyway because either for the experience or for the financial, income. So good for you for having that. And I learned that as well, not through my life coaching business, but I had another business previously of being a virtual assistant. And I would take any client, even though I was like, oh, they're going to be a nightmare. But because I needed the money, I did it anyway. And sure enough, that relationship would be ended usually by me. I was happy to fire clients that weren't in alignment with the kind of work that I wanted to do. So good for you for having that. I think that's a key, whether regardless of what business, like, is this somebody you
Mm-hmm.
truly like resonates with you and is to your point, ready to do the work?
Yes, and it's all. This doesn't come about overnight. Obviously, I had my learning experiences to get to
Yeah,
that point. Like anything, it's a process, right? You
right.
live and you learn and you adapt. So, in my experiences, similar to your experiences, we've learned when to say, "This is not going to be conducive to
Hmm.
either of us."
Hmm. And it's, I don't know, I love that. Like I don't know about you, but like people are surprised when I say this. Like I love when I find out I'm wrong because that means I learned something. And I use it. I remember in college, like there was a classmate who, for some reason, I decided I didn't like her. There was something about her personality that kind of triggered me. And then one day we for some reason we met for coffee, and she turned out to be one of my best friends. Like we're still good friends, and I was like, I'm so happy I was wrong.
Yeah,
So anyway.
that usually happens, and vice versa. Folks have made an assumption about me as a and I've made assumptions about other folks, right? We're
Hmm.
human.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
But when you get to interact and you learn a little bit more, sometimes you're surprised and they become, a really close confidant, friend, what have
Yeah.
you. And other times it doesn't work out. It is what it is.
Exactly. And that's just it. Like, it was what it was. I love that.
Yes. I will tell you though, and this is something, with empaths, usually, don't come for me. Usually when you have a feeling, an energetic vibe from someone that is in the negative, you're usually right. Like, I've usually been right about that initial assessment. And one of the things that I will do is I have this feeling and I will give benefit of the doubt. I'm like, okay, I have this feeling, but let's see how this plays out.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're proven right and you're just like, damn it, why did I go against my intuition?
You just explained my dating life, but yes, or even how I make friends. Like there'll be something inside. They'll be like, no. And then like you benefit of the doubt, or this is a big thing, I think, for females. I want to be nice. I don't want to be rude. And so maybe I will start a friendship with someone that I think, oh, it'd be nice to have another friend, or a man that I'm like, okay, well, he seems like okay, even though I'm getting a bad vibe. I'll meet him for a drink. And then I'd be like, wow, no, like, why didn't I listen to it? And that has actually been like one of my, helped me develop my intuition and start to trust like what my body is telling me, because I have the belief that our bodies hold so much wisdom, and that wisdom is intuitive wisdom. We just don't know, or we need to learn to recognize when to listen to it, when to like give it space. For instance, I was attempting to make, it was another life coach, and I wanted to be friends with her because I'm like, yes, I want a peer group. I want women to collaborate with. And we met for coffee, and I was aware she was completely talking about herself for probably an hour, hour and a half without asking anything of me. But I ignored it. I wanted to be nice. I'm like, this could still be a good relationship internally. And it was one of the worst friendships I think I ever experienced, because I was she did not have the capacity to tune into when something was bothering me or when I was going through something. All she wanted to talk about is her stuff. And I ignored it probably for 6 months. And I was like, this is not someone that I should allow into my space. She's a wonderful human being. She has a lot of great qualities, but for a relationship for me and what I like reciprocity in relationships. And so I let it go. I let that go. And I find that I do that often and I give people time, and as an empath, because sometimes we don't know. I also met somebody, like I started dating someone where I thought, oh my God, I think this is the love of my life. I was so wrong. And I don't know why. I still haven't figured that one out. But as an empath, I followed that and I realized, wow, okay, maybe there was something about him, like qualities in him that I want in a mate. Doesn't mean that he was my mate. So
yes, that's the fine line there with, adding on the empath aspect, right? Because you feel these emotions, and when you find certain emotions that are so strong, qualities or traits, you tend to focus on that.
Yes.
But your intuition is telling you, hey, I get what you're doing here, but there's this thing that is really not in alignment with you that you should focus on. And we as women are guilty.
Yes.
We will say, no. Let me figure this out, because I think I could do something here.
Yes. Right. Like I could fix it.
Yeah.
I actually experienced this recently. I'm on a inner journey of, I really want to explore ancestral healing. And I found a website of a practitioner, and I loved her website. Like when I found it and read her description, I actually started to cry. Like it moved me emotionally. I met her with these emotions that I experienced when I first saw her website. We had a discovery call, and I didn't like some of the way, that, like her tonality when she was talking to me. Like, and I was like, okay, but I was like, I'm going to let that go because I really want to work with her.
Yes.
I worked with a life coach because it was bothering me. I was like, well, something's not right. Like, I want to do this work, but she doesn't feel good, but I'm still going to do this work and I'm going to work with her. My intuition led me there. And they encouraged me, like, well, if you had a magic wand, what would you do? I was like, I want to write her a question. I want to write her and say, something doesn't feel good in the way that you responded to me. Did you feel that? Can we speak again? And her response was, I don't know what you're talking about. I encourage you to find somebody else.
Oh
Great.
my God.
Yes. But
Oh, rude.
however, I took it as, she was honoring her space. I had to honor mine. Something in me, like I'll say last year, would not have written that email to ask for clarification. I just would have worked with her, thinking that I needed to work with her because I resonated with her. And I realized I'm going to talk to 2 more practitioners in this. And I finally found the one that I want to work with. But it took and so I took my what I was feeling intuitively and being an empath as I want to explore the healing modality. And her website happened to speak to me, where the woman that I'm working with, her website did not speak to me. However, when we connected on the discovery call, she was like, I don't push my clients. We take our time. We do this, everything that I wanted in a practitioner. So and again, I give myself the space. I was like, one of my biggest things that I encourage myself and anybody else, we have the right to learn. And that really helped me with this because I was in pain. I was like, I should have just did I burn a bridge? And it's a small community in this healing modality where they all know each other. However, I'm glad I followed my intuition and that I worked with a coach to help me yeah, you didn't feel good because she's not the right person for you. Honor that. Especially as an empath, we receive so much information on so many different levels. I usually think it means one level. Yes, no, or maybe when it's layered. So I'd encourage anybody an empath, always ask a question. Go inside. Does this work? Okay.
Yes.
So,
Oh my
I
God.
don't
I
know.
love that. I love that you had this sense and you took the step to make sense of what you were feeling. Like you said, you were attracted to this website, it spoke to you, but then when you had that conversation, something wasn't quite right. And you didn't just push that feeling aside, you gave it credence, which ended up benefiting you in the long run. And for those of you watching and listening, I hope you really understood what she said there. She went through a discovery process to find the right person for her, which is why I encourage you guys that are either aspiring coaches or looking to work with a coach, definitely reach out to several people, really know what you're looking for. Just because somebody has an initial outward appearance, appearances are deceptive, right?
Absolutely.
A site can show one thing, but the person can be something different. So make sure that you're doing your due diligence in getting what you need. Secondly, intuition. Bettina, we've been talking about intuition in some way, shape, or form this entire time.
Yes.
And I feel like women in general have a strong sense of intuition. It's just inherent to us, but we tend to push that intuition away, which then it means that when we start to pay attention, we have to build it up like anything else. We have to give it that power. We have to practice it so that as we continue to grow and develop, that also grows and develops.
Absolutely. We have to make space for it. And mainly because of society. And I say that not as a blame, but this is, we are in a culture of other people. We live in a society. And so we may get a prompting from our intuition that goes against society. And for example, let's say you are at the age where you either make a decision to go to college or take a year off. Society will tell us, go to college, declare a major, move on with your life, find a career so that you could have stability later on. However, that is not the right path for everyone. Like maybe somebody's just like, but I just want to take a year off, or I want to postpone because I don't know what I want to explore. I just don't want to incur debt, or making a career change. And yet, like, and society is traditionally other. It could be our family, our friends, our boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, our children, regardless of our age. Like, what's best? And it's like society will tell us what's best for, the whole, but we are individuals. And our intuition is not, my intuition is not the same as your intuition. So you receive promptings that will help guide your life, but the main thing is each person has to make that space for their like to define their intuition. How do we receive information? I don't know. I'm sure you receive it maybe the same way I do, but like I have clear audience, I have clear knowing, and I also feel things in my body. And I had to develop that. So like intuition is so beautiful. I love exploring it. I love playing with it. I love like even helping clients using tools like through metaphor when they have challenges. Like, okay, like I could say more, but like I'd love to know, like, how do you feel your intuition, and how do you make space for your intuition? Because sometimes I have to just sit and like ask myself a question: how does this feel in my body? How
No,
does
I'm the same actually.
mm.
Because to, for a very long time, I went against my intuition. And
Mm.
this is way before I even, became a coach.
Yes.
And as I grew and developed and I had these experiences, negative experiences, positive experiences, I would think, okay, but more so on the negative, I would think, okay, why did this play out the way it did? I had this sense and I ignored it. So as I developed, as my intuition grew stronger, and something I still do today is I still ask myself, okay, why am I feeling this way? And where am I feeling that, right?
Mm.
Where is that
Mm.
feeling centered in my being? And that
Yes.
actually opens up a lot.
It's I would say it's miraculous. I love,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I'm feeling something in my body and I'll start to ask, like, does it have a color? Does it have a heat
Mm-hmm.
signature? Is it cold? Does it have a sensation? Just to help me
Mm-hmm.
identify it. And then I start asking it questions like, do you want to tell me something? Do you want to show me something? And also try and register, does this feel good or does it feel bad?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it telling, like, does it feel like it's a warning? Or is it like,
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, all systems, yes, move forward?
I actually use that. So in my coaching, when we do role playing,
Mm,
I have the individual play several roles. And in that
wow.
role playing, we're using that intuition and we're expanding further on it with the feeling, okay, like you said, is it cold? Is it warm? What is it bringing up in you? Like, because believe it or not, and I know it sounds so simple, but so many folks miss this idea. Any action or decision that we make is
Hmm.
tied to an emotion,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
understanding that emotion and really fleshing it out in all the capacities will open you up for so much more.
I even use it for, like, if I have a to-do list. Like, let's say there are three things that I feel like I really have to get done. Like, they're so important, either to my personal life, my business, whatever. If I feel a little overwhelmed, I'll sit down with that list and I tune into my body. Do I really need to do this right now? And feel what my body has to tell me. And if it says no,
Mm-hmm.
it'll go lower to the list. Or maybe I'll think of, well, can I get somebody else to help me with this? Or can I hire someone to take care of this? Especially if we're like business owners and there's always a to-do list
Yes,
of
there's always a to do
how to
list.
sustain our business, grow our business, everything, as well as in our personal lives. Like, we have to-do lists, whether it's going grocery shopping, painting, spring cleaning, anything. And I use my intuition and my body to figure out what do I really want to get done. And I do my best not to have like outside influences. Like today, I had things that I wanted to do, but I'm like, it's a gorgeous day. I'm going to use this time and go for a walk in the woods by myself because I know that's going to nourish me on so many levels, on my creativity, on everything, where everything else can get done. But I always tune into my body because, again, our bodies have so much more wisdom than our minds.
Yes, that is great advice, guys. Really take that in. Our bodies, generations of learning that are embedded in our
Yes.
DNA, our intuition being one of those things. So really pay attention to what your body, what your intuition is trying to tell you. Oh my
Yes.
God, Bettina, this conversation is
I love
amazing. I
it.
can go on and
I
on. Like, I feel like there's a vibrational connection there because we have so many similarities.
I
But I want
know.
you to tell us about your coaching, right? Tell us, what you're offering, how folks can get in touch with you.
Sure. Well, like most coaches, I am offering a discovery call, 30 minutes, that I would love to do. And also, right now, I'm working really hard to be ICF certified, which means I need more hours. So I'm offering, if somebody truly, like, if we resonate and it's a good fit, I would like to offer complimentary 3 coaching sessions. And again, this is a mutual thing where it will not cost you someone money, but it will be in a time investment. And I only want somebody who really feels like, one, we resonate, and two, they're dedicated to explore tools. So that is my offer. And if somebody has a life coach and they don't, I have a tool that I'm happy to send them. It's called the Wheel of Life. So someone could kind of like self-assess, where could I use a little more joy? So I do have a website. It's my first, middle, and last name is, and don't judge me, it is under the works. It's www.bettinamariejones.com. That's B like beautiful, Ettina, mariejones.com. And my email is the same thing, except I have a ton of dots, bettina.marie.jones@gmail.com. And so that's how people can get in touch with me. Even if they just have questions, like if they are considering being a life coach, I don't, I have a firm belief, collaboration over competition. I would rather collaborate and share resources with people because one of my biggest questions when I was considering becoming a life coach is after everybody's like, become a life coach, you should explore this. My question was, does the world need another life coach?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they do. And they need you. I will say that. Like if you have and so to answer your question, that's how they could get back. That's how they could reach out to me. That's what I'm
Mm-hmm.
offering. But I would also like to say, if you don't mind, um, look for traits if you're interested in becoming a life coach. Like, do people come and share their stories with you or look for advice from you? Not that coaches give advice, but people pick up on qualities that we have. And that is a
Mm-hmm.
quality that needs refinement so that you can be like an amazing life coach. So I'd like to share that. And
Yeah.
if you're someone who's interested in a life coach, I always use the rule of 3. When I'm looking for a practitioner, check out 3 and then make a decision because you'll resonate with somebody. Somebody will share some great information and somebody might be, but at least you'll
Mm-hmm.
have your answer. And that's for anything. I have like the rule of 3. Sometimes I throw in 4 or 5, but
The rule of 3 is a really great rule, actually.
it
And
is.
there's a lot of benefit in using that. And even like if you pay attention to the signs of the universe,
Mm-hmm.
good things and even bad things can tend
Yes,
to come in threes.
absolutely. Oh, I love this, Evelyn.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And guys, we're going to put all of her details in the podcast details and the YouTube details. I highly recommend you guys to take advantage of her offer. Not many coaches offer free sessions beyond the discovery call. And if you got anything from this conversation, I hope that it's the feeling that Bettina can actually help you. If not working directly with you, maybe even referring you out to someone else. Because again, I feel like the energy, the vibration that she's putting forth, at least for me, the way I feel it, it's so positive, it's so welcoming, it's
Thank you.
warm, and it makes you want to engage and interact further. So please support her, please follow her, please take advantage of anything has resonated with you. If you have any questions or curiosity, reach
Yes.
out to her. Take
I would
advantage.
love that. Thank you, Evelyn. Evelyn, thank you for like holding space. This is such a beautiful outreach that you have. I just want to say
You are
thank you.
so welcome. This is something that, I just put out there to inform and empower other individuals, but I'm getting so much from it as well because I get to meet women like you, engage, learn, and just elevate each other, which is what I love.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you. That's beautiful.
You are welcome. And thank you for sharing. Thank you for being present and giving us all this wonderful wisdom.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Any last thoughts you want to share with the audience?
I would say, if anything, I would encourage anybody, like regardless of your circumstance or your situation right now, whether it be positive, negative, in between, have a sweet conversation with yourself and ask you like what would bring you more joy to your life, and start exploring that, whether that's with a life coach or anything. Whether you want to be a nomad for 6 months, explore that. Like your soul is informing you of something, and you are worthy of that exploration regardless of who you are. That would be
Well
something.
said. Beautiful. And to tack onto that, society is all about the whole, but we are individuals. And as an individual, that intuition that you have, Bettina's statement just now, you want to explore that and make sure that your path is right for you.
Yes. Yeah. Lovely. Beautiful. I had so much fun.
Well, guys, this has been great. Again, I hope you guys got so much from it. Please go and support Bettina. Take her up on her offer for free coaching, which is practically unheard of.
I really want my hours, like so I get better support.
Help her get those hours, but also understand that, it's going to be beneficial to you as well.
Yes.
If you're willing to put in the work. Coaches are not, magic fairies. You don't have a wand that we just wave and everything is fixed. We're not here to fix you, nor to do the work for you. So make sure that you're really ready to put in the work and put in that effort.
Yes. Yes.
Thanks again, Bettina.
Thank you,
guys,
Evelyn.
Like I always say, preparation, accountability, execution, and resolve are key.